Hi everybody, I'm Mike McCrory and this is Would You Make It? I recently purchased a new Freud dado set, the SD508, and I bought it because I was working on a project that needed to have joints that were flawless. I couldn't afford any error at all. And I had a dado set before. This is actually my third dado set. The one I had before was the SD308. It's not that much different in terms of its capability. It just cuts a little bit smaller width than the maximum width of the 508. The other major difference is that the 508 has chippers that have 4 teeth on them, and this one has chippers that have 2 teeth on them. So obviously 4 teeth is better than 2. So I bought it for 2 reasons. One is this dado set is about 15 years old, I think, and it was starting to cut bottoms that were not perfectly flat. You could see ridges in them. And then the other issue I had was that a couple of months ago, I accidentally put one of the chippers in backwards. And when it was cutting, I didn't realize it, and when it was cutting, one of the teeth broke off. So this chipper is not of any use anymore. I could still use it, and I was still using it for narrower dados, but it was really time to upgrade to something newer. So what I'm going to do is do a little bit of a review of the SD508, show you what you get out of the box. And I'm also going to do a comparison of the cuts between my older SD308 and the new SD508. So let's start by opening up the box. I've already used this set once, so it's not a true unboxing, but the most important thing is not to see my reaction while I'm opening it, but to see what do you get when you purchase this. All right, so let's open the box and take a look at what's inside. Just like any dado set, stacked dado set, there are 2 blades. One blade goes on the inside, the other one goes on the outside, and in between them go each of the chippers, or as many chippers as you need to make your cut. So the first chipper here is a 1/16 of an inch. The next chipper is 3/32 of an inch, and this comes in handy for cutting plywood that's typically undersized. And then there are 4 remaining chippers that are each 1/8 of an inch. In addition to the chippers and the blades, there's also a set of shims that range in size from 0.001 inches, I think. Let's see. Sorry, 0.004 inches, which is 0.1 millimeters, all the way up to 0.012 inches, which is 0.3 millimeters. So you can use these in any combination that you need to fine-tune the thickness of the dado blade to get exactly the cut that you need. So I'm going to put the chippers and the blades back in place, and I'm going to carefully put them back in the order in which I took them out. One of the reasons I have to do that, and one of the shortcomings of this product, I think, is the fact that they're not labeled. It's a minor inconvenience, but it would be very nice if Freud had etched the size of each of these just to make it easy to distinguish between 1/8 of an inch and 3/32 of an inch, because it's not that easy, even when you hold them up side by side, to know which one is which. So under the foam on the other side of the case, there's a little instruction manual. The instructions are relatively basic, just some warnings and some basic setup information. What's important, though, is the information that's on the following page, which has all the different combinations of thickness and the combinations of the blades and chippers that you need to use to get the thickness that you need. So this is really helpful. In addition to the instruction guide, there's also a DVD which walks you through some of the setup and some tips and tricks on some typical joints that you can make, as well as a little wall chart that you can hang up on your wall if you have the space in your shop. And this provides a quick reference. In this case, it's the 500 series that I have. So this provides a quick reference for the combination of blades and chippers that I need to make the desired thickness. And then on the back of this is some other information, a depiction of some typical joints that you can make with this, instructions on how to build a dado crosscut sled, and instructions on how to create an indexing fence to go on your sled if you want to make a box joint. So the first thing I'll do is I'll make some test cuts by selecting a couple of different thicknesses for the dado set, and then using my calipers to compare the thickness of the cut versus what it says in the chart to see how close it comes. And the instructions say if you don't get the exact thickness you need after a test cut, then you can either add a shim or back off one of the chippers and add some shims to get the thickness that you need. And I'm okay with that, but it certainly would be ideal if the thickness that you get with that set of blades is exactly what it says here. Let's randomly pick a 9/16 inch. So for the 9/16 inch joint, it says I need the first blade, the one that goes on the inside. And then the 1/16 inch chipper, making sure that I put the teeth in the right direction. Oh, and notice, I mentioned this earlier, but notice that there are 4 teeth on these chippers, so much nicer than the old chippers that I had that only had a straight bar that had 2 teeth. And then I need 2 1/8 inch chippers. And I'm careful to position the teeth on the chipper so that they don't interfere with the teeth on the blade. Put the second chipper. And then put the outside blade. And then I typically use a blade stiffener. You don't really need to on a dado blade, but I figure why not, since I've got the capacity for it. If I was cutting the maximum thickness using all of the chippers and both blades, my arbor does not have enough length to put the blade stiffener, but that's the only time that I wouldn't use it. I'm going to test it on 3 different pieces of wood. I've got a piece of oak, a piece of MDF, and a piece of plywood, and we'll see how the cuts come out. Okay, I'll make the first cut in MDF. Next cut I'll make in plywood. In this case, I'm going to cut using the fence because I want to see what kind of tear out I get when I go across the grain. So really, it's about as flat as the bottom as you can get, given it's plywood and some of the layers chip out easily. But as far as the edges, there is no tear out, even when cutting across the grain. So that's a good sign. And where there is no chip out or tear out in the bottom, it is very, very flat. The last piece will be the oak. A nice flat bottom again. In this case, there's a little bit of tear out at the back. I'm not too worried about that because if I was cutting this for real, I would probably have either a backer board along here or a little bit of tape, masking tape across the back that would prevent that from happening. but it's remarkably clean, I think, compared to what I'm used to with my old dado set. So now I want to check these for accuracy, and this is supposed to be 9/16, and that's, oops, get the caliper there. That's exactly what it says, 9/16. And on the oak, (9/16). Can't get any better than that. Now I've got the blade set to 25 30-seconds, and I will make similar cuts, starting with the oak. And now we'll test it with the caliper, see what it says. See if I can get the lighting right here. Oops, I got that cut. 25 30-seconds. And the oak piece, get it in straight, and it also says 25 30-seconds. Now I've got my old blade installed, and we'll do a comparison cut. Now, taking a look first at the oak, this is with the new blade and this is with the old blade. And I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but you can see there are striations that go across. And that's because of issues with the older blade. I don't think the blade was like that originally. It's just a little bit past its prime, and it's got some issues now. Another issue you can see coming out of the back, this is with the new blade, this is with the old blade. And you can see there's quite a bit more tear out, larger chunks of tear out with the older, duller blade. Again, it wasn't like this when it was brand new, so I'm really comparing apples and oranges. And this is due most likely to the fact that it's just an older blade. The tear out is most significant on the plywood. These first two cuts are both from the new blade, and then when I slide it over and you look at the cut from the old blade, you can see the problems that I would have had if I was making a piece of furniture, let's say a cabinet, and I wanted to put a dado or a rabbit into it. That creates a lot of issues. So I'm really happy I made the investment, and actually I got a very good deal on this blade. I bought it from Amazon on Prime Day. So they already had a very good price of something like $179, but I got a $30 discount because I used my Amazon credit card. So I ended up paying only $149 for a dado set that normally lists for around $199 from most other retailers. So that's my review. I wasn't paid or sponsored to do this review. It's just something that I wanted to do to give back to the woodworker community. For those of you who are thinking about purchasing a dado set, this will help you to make a more informed decision. I think this is a very good product. I think I also got a very good value by purchasing it from Amazon. What else? It's got a 4-tooth chipper, so that helps to make very clean cuts. It's got the 3 32nd-inch chipper that is very suitable for making plywood cuts. And in a nutshell, that's it. Very good product, and I highly recommend it. So good luck with your purchase. Thanks for watching.